red flags in sales calls aren't always what they appear to be. In a lot of cases, I think most newer closers, or most closers, even experienced ones, they're looking for certain information, right? They're trying to uncover and determine what the client needs and how the client needs it, where the client needs it. There's a handful of red flags though, that regardless of how well your discovery is done, if you don't take care of these red flags in the moment, odds are they're going to come back and bite you later on. And typically that comes in the form of a think about it, an upset spouse or a misinformed spouse, maybe a cancellation request, to where you're trying to save the deal and piece it back together, right? So what I want to talk about first and foremost is the words that are being said without being said, right? Energy, or the statement that's being made without saying it. With that being said, a couple things to keep in mind. When somebody says something, when it's like, here's a good example. What does your spouse think about XYZ? What does your spouse think about you joining a program to start an e-com business? What does your spouse think about, oh, I don't know, they don't know, or oh, they're supportive, they enjoy seeing me happy, right? But I make the decisions. It's like, okay, well, what do you mean by that, right? So the red flag to me is that they're married. Now, don't get me wrong, some people can do this, but the 99.99% of the people you talk to are not what I refer to as a one-legger. They're not a sole decision maker, right? Especially for a program or product that's thousands and thousands of dollars, right? So when somebody tells me that, I'm naturally on the defense, and I don't let them know that. What do you mean by that you make the decisions, or you're the sole decision maker, right? I'm gonna make them tell me, and I'm gonna dig deeper and deeper and deeper, and almost every single time it comes out that they're getting their spouse on the next call with me, right? I try to make that happen right out of the gate, right? If we can qualify that in our onboarding, or in our scheduling assessment, or if there's a setter involved, we'll absolutely have the spouse there. But if you're taking warm traffic out of like a YouTube funnel or Instagram funnel, and you're just getting right on the phone as the closer, these things are going to play a big part in the way that you do business, right? So the red flag for me is that they say they're the decision maker, but they're married. It's like, oh, okay, well, what do you mean by you guys make the financial decisions? Like, where have you done that in the past, right? Or, hey, can you give me an example of somewhere where you started a new business or made an investment without your spouse available? I want them to, well, no, but I can now. I want them to start seeing the red flags that I see. And sometimes it's okay to even just tell them, like, hey, Bob, I don't want to sound rude here, but it's kind of a red flag to me when somebody doesn't want their spouse on the phone. I appreciate if that's the way that you've done business, but truthfully, in order for us to ensure we're a good fit for each other, I need your spouse on the phone. Now, if that's a deal breaker for you, I completely understand, Bob, and we can part as friends, but I get, and then from there, I'm looking for the next red flag, right? The next red flag is he going to walk? Right? Or is he going to say, okay, I'll get him on the phone? Because if he's willing to walk away from the conversation, that's another red flag that I have to be willing to call out, right? It's like, well, Bob, no, with all due respect, you just got through telling me that you need to do this, you have to do this because of XYZ reasons. I'm going to list them off. But you're willing to walk away from it because your spouse has to be present? Help me understand that, right? So the red flags I'm looking for, you guys, is it's even something like, hey, what does your spouse think about it? Oh, they're just kind of on board with whatever I want. Hear what that answer really says. I just don't want to take the time to explain to you what my spouse really thinks about it, or I haven't talked to my spouse about it. All right. Now, I've used a lot of spouse, red flags on the spouse, but it could be as simple as like, hey, when it comes down to starting a business, having good credit will open a ton of doors for you. What's your credit look like? Oh, it's pretty good. When I hear pretty good, I hear it's probably pretty okay, right? Nobody that has good credit, excellent credit, if they have an 800 credit score, nobody's going to say, oh, it's pretty good. They might say, oh, it's good. Yeah, it's really good. That's actually 750, 800, right? When you say pretty good, what does that look like? When's the last time you checked your scores on the 3 bureaus? So see how I'm constantly, if there's a red flag, I cover it, and I cover it right now. Right? And there's certain little things, you guys, it's not like we're going to nitpick them and pick them apart. There's little things where it's like, they might make a statement about something that's a little wishy-washy, but you've got to figure out the difference of, is it something is it a battle I'm willing to pick? And does it make sense for me? Is that going to be a roadblock in the decision-making process? Are they using that red flag as an out to get off the phone with me without making a decision, right? So some of the other areas that I really want you to pay attention to, if you're on a high ticket offer, you've got a service offer, coaching offer, it doesn't matter what it is. The things that you're looking for are where are the areas that anybody could weasel out of saying yes to this if they're a fit, right? We don't want just a yes on everybody. And I don't mean just a yes to please you. I'm talking a yes, let's roll up our sleeves, here's my credit number, my credit card number, let's get started. Right? So what are those things? Well, those things can be everything from the way that they talk about their credit. If we're talking about cash, maybe your offer is they need to have a decent amount of cash. I know a lot of like the automation offers, they've got to have a lot of credit, and cash is king too. I'm going to get into it. It's like, hey, so what is, as far as investing budget, obviously in order to start a program like this, you're going to need, between $50,000 and $100,000 liquid. What does your liquid budget look like right now? Oh, it's about 50 grand. Remember, that's wishy-washy, right? We can't let that pass. So if I pass on all of those things and I don't verify it, then it's going to consistently come back and bite me. Oh, well, I said I had 50, but that's in a 401k I got to borrow from. And then you find out they only have $50,000 in a 401k, which odds are, as far as I know, you can only borrow up to half of what's in there. So they would only be able to borrow 25,000, right? So do your homework on the call, do your homework in discovery. Don't always trust that your setter's done the digging that you would do, right? So when I get on the deal, I'm looking for the red flags that the setter gave me. Hey, I think you're going to have a problem here, here, and here. But I'm also looking for my own red flags, right? So, hey, that's about 50K liquid. Okay, about where is that coming from? Oh, it's in a 401k. Okay, what do you have in the 401k total? And have you ever borrowed from the 401k before? So notice the way that I'm asking these questions, and I'm getting more clear on exactly what they need and why they need it. And I'm also helping them. You guys, you got to understand something. When I ask these questions, it gets to the point where if I'm doing it enough, I'm doing it right, they're going to stop giving me wishy-washy answers, right? But if they continue, one of the other red flags is like, have they given me enough wishy-washy answers that I need to stop them and kind of call it out, right? Or is that just their personality type? There's some people that kind of speak in generalizations, right? Whereas other people are very specific. So if that individual is somebody that continues to speak in very general terms, I'm going to stop them and be like, hey, Bob, real quick, and I don't mean this with any disrespect, but it kind of feels like you're giving me super vague answers, and I have to kind of continue to pull this information out of you. Have you had a bad experience in the past? I guess I feel like I typically don't have to work this hard to have a conversation with people to get an idea of where they're at and whether or not we can help them. Have you had a bad experience in the past? So call it out how it is, right? But I did it in a way where it doesn't come across offensive. It doesn't come across in a way where I'm attacking him, but it also comes across as hey, a typical salesperson is never going to call me out like that, right? They're afraid of losing the sale, whereas I'm a consultant. I'm here to direct and lead you, and I'm going to call you out on your BS if you're giving me BS answers, right? And it's not in a tough guy tone. It's not there's no ego in it. It's just like, well, hold on a second. That doesn't really add up, right? So it's no different than anything else. You're kind of the lead investigator on the case, and your role is to get to deep dive and uncover every single stone, right? So I would be very curious to hear the red flags. I'd be curious to hear the red flags that you've run into, or red flags that have continued to pop up in your conversations. And I could cover some of that in my next video. So I hope this was helpful. I would also recommend you document these phone calls. So in videos past, I've talked about call reviews and how important and imperative call reviews are. So for anybody that hasn't seen it, record your sales calls. I don't care if it's on Zoom or if it's audio, record them. If you are on Zoom, I want you watching that, not just listening to and where you can improve. I want you watching where you can improve. In a lot of cases, your body language is putting off a different message than what your tonality is putting off, right? That's why phone sales has been such a unique thing for a lot of people that maybe came from the door knocking industry, right? Or retail, where they've been face to face with people throughout the entire sales process. When you get on the phone, it changes the game because they can't see you. So they're making an interpretation or a decision on whether or not they like you right out of the gate, right? So we have to be willing to get in the trenches right now, and our tone has to say it all. Our voice inflection has to say it all, right? So the red flags you should be looking for are found in your sales calls. You just need to go through with a pen and paper or a Google Doc, whatever you have open, and document it. Wait, what did I notice? What did I leave uncovered? What did I not go back and verify to ensure that I covered everything with this client? I think the best piece of advice that I ever heard, and I would write this down on your piece of paper right now, all prospects are guilty of not being a deal until proven innocent. When you think about it like that, as silly as it sounds, you're going to take on an entirely different perspective on the way you do discovery, the way that you frame the close or the sale. You're going to take on an entirely different stance on what's acceptable and what's not. I would imagine your surface level answers are going to be completely removed from your process, and you're not going to move on to the next step until you verified, well, just curious, why is that? Or, hey, interesting, I don't hear that very often. How come? Right? I'm verifying every single piece. So I hope this is helpful, and we'll see you in the next video.